Hi guys, I hope you're doing really well. My name is Sarah and welcome to What the Horror, the channel where we talk about horror movies old and new. Now, I am fully aware that Lisa Frankenstein has been out in the cinemas for about a month now in the States, so you may be questioning, why are you only just releasing your review now? Well, I did promise in my channel update episode back in January that I wanted to get back into doing more reviews of newly released films. I was really good at keeping up with it in 2022, dropped off a little bit last year, but this year I am back to reviewing newly released films. And yes, I am aware that Lisa Frankenstein is a little less than newly released, but I think I should probably explain that a little bit. As a lot of you know, I am UK based, and while America has had Lisa Frankenstein for about over a month now, we have still yet to have it released in cinemas. It is due for release on Friday the 1st of March. It's mad, I know. It is also being released on the same day that in the UK we have the premiere of Dune 2. So, Lisa Frankenstein in the cinemas here is resigned to the graveyard shift, 3 showings later at night. I was so excited for this release, all ready to book my tickets for the 1st of March, and then I read on some horror news website that it had already been released on video on demand on the previous Tuesday, the 27th, I believe. So to me, it is just mind-blowing that before the UK has even had it in the cinema, it's already released to stream or digitally rent, I should say. So could my ass wait for the cinema? No, it got it on video on demand, watched it, and here we are. I've already mentioned that Lisa Frankenstein is a film that I was genuinely really excited for. Was it my most anticipated film of 2024? No, but it is one that caught my eye. It's one I was excited for. One of the reasons is because it was written by Diablo Cody, I should say, who previously wrote Jennifer's Body. This is an incredibly written film. I like her style, so I was excited to see another installment from her. The other reason why I was so excited about this film is because of who's sitting in the director chair. Now, this is a directorial debut by Zelda Williams, the daughter of beloved comedian actor Robin Williams. Now, again, this is somebody who, should be credited and judged on her own merit. However, I feel like coming from a legacy of Robin Williams, you can't help but expect to have a certain baggage in the way that people are going to be curious as to what you can deliver, and I was one of those. Lisa Frankenstein is set in 1989, where a misunderstood teenager has a high school crush who just happens to be a handsome corpse. After a set of playful, horrific circumstances bring him back to life, the two embark on a murderous journey to find love, happiness, and a few missing body parts along the way. So, we're going to go through my thoughts on the film and cover some positives that I had and some mixed aspects. For me, there were no negatives as far as I'm concerned, so we're going to focus more on the positive side. And for me, the biggest positive has to be the casting in this film. I believe that Kathryn Newton is an absolute gem in the horror genre. I can't think of a film that she has done that I don't like, including the 4th Paranormal Activity. She just has this effortless skill to balance the horrific side of the horror films with the comedic aspect as well. And some of you will know I'm not the biggest fan of comedy horrors. However, if it has Kathryn Newton in it, then I would definitely give it a try. She has proved time and time again that she can just balance this beautiful blend of the dark with the silly, and it was no different in Lisa Frankenstein. Her portrayal of this character, her mannerisms, her reactions to some of the things that were happening in the film were just so on point and delightful. Cole Sprouse as the creature, as he is credited, but he is a corpse of a young man from the 1800s. He, again, was a really pleasant surprise. This is a role where Cole is restricted dramatically by having no dialogue, apart from a very small part, and so everything that he has to convey is through facial expressions and body language. And bearing in mind that this is a reanimated corpse, he can't use facial expressions and mannerisms in the same way that a sprightly live human would. I read that Cole had worked with a mime or choreographer to get down the movements of the corpse to really be able to portray that, make it more believable, but be able to still express a side of the conversation between him and Catherine Newton's character, express emotions, express humour, and yeah, I was very pleasantly surprised with his portrayal. Lisa Soberano is somebody that I haven't previously seen in anything. She plays the stepsister of Lisa in the film, and I really liked this character. I liked that while she's the sparky, popular cheerleader character, she's not a mean girl. She's not the typical portrayal of what you would think this character could be, being the stepsister, being the popular cheerleader. She's written and performed in a way that while she certainly has some moments of snide comments, a little slide backhand, for the most part she's actually a really likable person, and she genuinely cares for her family members, including her stepdad and her stepsister. So I really liked that element of being just not quite matching what you might expect it to have been. However, all that aside, the absolute highlight for me in this film, in terms of actors, in terms of characters and their performance, has to be Carla Gugino. I mean, Carla's just this beautiful woman. She's a wonderful actress. I've seen her in lots of things, especially Mike Flanagan stuff of late. Absolute just brain freeze then. But she often plays these kind, likable characters. She's often at the forefront as a lead. So going into this film, I didn't actually know she was in it. So that in itself was a wonderful surprise. But then she's playing this character who is so genuinely evil. It really took me by surprise because it is not her usual treaded ground. And while the character is genuinely evil, I stand by that, in the true sense of the word. The things that she says to people in it, her attitude towards people, especially Lisa, is horrendous. But there is so much comedy applied to this character as well. There is one particular scene where she's at home in this workout get-up and she's listening to a self-help tape. It's so subtly and beautifully done, but so funny. And a highlight of the film for sure, but also genuinely difficult to watch in some parts because the comedy side apart, the things that she's saying, the way she's treating people, especially Lisa, it's really awful at times. Another positive for me would be the setting of the film. Now, I understand that Lisa Frankenstein being set in the 80s is not going to be for everybody. It feels like since the success of Stranger Things, perhaps to a small extent It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, we've been inundated with films, games, books and TV shows just being set in the 80s. And I understand that there's a lot of nostalgia for it, there's a lot of creative width in terms of the look and the feel of it, but it also feels like that nostalgia, that charm is going to dilute the more and more you do this, the more and more you churn it out. You're going to get burnout on it. And the 80s setting of Lisa Frankenstein was probably one of my least one of the aspects that I was least excited about. However, while I wasn't particularly worried about it, I wasn't particularly excited, I didn't need to be either. I think that the use of the 80s in this film was pretty good. I don't think it went to the extremes of in-your-face 80s iconography. I did love that the colour scheme in the poster that you see, the pinks and the greens, while they are in neon, this colour scheme wasn't just used because of the neon and from that. It's actually sewn throughout the film in everything from the clothing, the furnishings, the colour of the house, to simply little things like bouquets of flowers that two characters have at the end of the film. And this is in the range of the neons to muted tones as well. So I think that while there are things from the 80s, it is, perhaps it's not done as a gimmick And it's done in a look. This is some furnishings and outfits that are more natural from the late 80s, early 90s, rather than the cartoonish stereotype image that we have of them. I would say that the most egregious 80s thing in the film is Catherine Newton's character Lisa's outfits and hair. She has this amazing big fluffy hair. She's got this image that's very Madonna from the 80s, lots of lace and fingerless gloves. So I do love that, but that is probably the only standout thing that I think is a little in-your-face 80s. And I suppose creatively, in a thematic way, the 80s was a really good choice for the setting, because what other setting could have provided such a wonderful juxtaposition to the time that Cole Sprouse's The Creature is from? This is a character from the 1800s. It's a world of, oil lamps and candles and carriages, muted colours, tailored clothes. And so the 80s is very extreme, extravagant, bright colours, big shoulder pads, big hair. And so creatively, I think that it's actually a genius choice to highlight that these two characters are, to instantly highlight that these two characters are from two different worlds. And, there's that clash. I also really love the two set pieces of the cemetery and of Lisa's bedroom. These are two settings where they can really have fun with tipping the hat and including nods to the world of the Universal monsters. With the cemetery, you get to have fun with the tombstones and the overgrown ivy, the tall trees, a little bit of mist. It taps into the Gothic aspect. There's a little bit of Dracula, a little bit of Frankenstein, a little bit of Mary Shelley. And I just absolutely loved that. And the scenes where Lisa is hanging out there and she's just leaning against the tombstones and she's wistfully daydreaming, I really appreciated that. I appreciated the weird girl, loner girl, misunderstood, hanging out in the cemetery vibes. Because, we've all done it, haven't we? We've all hung out in the cemetery. And then in Lisa's bedroom, which is beautifully crafted, you've got the sort of the pink frilly bits, very feminine, but then you've got band posters on the wall and other things that give her a little bit of her darkness as well. But my favourite aspect was how on her walls it's decorated with movie posters from other Universal monsters. There's one of the Mummy, there's one of Creature from the Black Lagoon. There's even, I think it's just to the side of her bed, some sketches that she's done, and they include monsters as well. I think there's one of the Creature from the Black Lagoon. And these aspects are never highlighted, they're never focused or explained. It's just there. It's just a nice little subtle background nod to the world that this story is inspired by. And again, I just love it. Okay, now moving into some mixed aspects for me, and the main one that really stands out is the light-hearted campiness of the film. There are some bits, in fact often, the campiness did really work for me. I loved the campiness that is applied to the first death in the film, because this is a particularly unlikable character. You almost have that level of enjoyment that this character has been got. And it sets up a really great line delivery from Catherine Newton's character as well. And another one is a bit later in the film. The stepsister is really panicked and really worrying about something. And in her emotion, she turns to Lisa and she says, "You're so lucky, you don't know how hard this is because," and then proceeds to reduce and belittle the most horrific and worst thing that has ever happened in Lisa's life. And as an audience member, I was mortified. I was like, oh, how dare she? But Lisa doesn't respond in the way you would think she does. She responds in the complete opposite way, and it just really worked. And that was the kind of humour that I did like. That was the campiness that I appreciated. But there were other times when I didn't like it. I don't think I explained at the beginning, but one of the reasons why I was so excited for this film is because I absolutely adore the world of the Universal monsters. Dracula, Frankenstein's monster, the Wolfman, the Mummy, Creature from the Black Lagoon, Invisible Man. Hence the t-shirt. And I love these kind of films. I love the gothic aesthetic that comes with them. And from films like, The Haunting and House on Haunted Hill, I love all of that. And while I knew this would be set in the 80s, I did hope that they would perhaps be a little bit more treading into that style of film. But in terms of that gothic feeling of the Universal monster world, Lisa Frankenstein is severely lacking. And, this isn't really a fault of the film. This is Zelda Williams' creative decision. I'm just saying that perhaps I went in expecting this, and because I didn't get it, I ended up a little bit frustrated and a little bit bored with the campiness at some points, because I would have preferred a little bit more of the darker side of it. I mean, it's supposed to be a dark comedy, a dark romance, so I think there is wiggle room for a little bit more darkness. But going back to positives, I would say maybe not mixed, or maybe this is just a general overall thought of the film, but in terms of the story, I would say that Lisa Frankenstein is what I would call a very simple film. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I don't mean that as an insult at all. Lisa Frankenstein is what it is. It does what it says on the tin. There is no real depth to the story. There is no real message to be taken from this film. There is no lesson really being taught in this film. It is simply just a fun time. Perhaps if we're thinking about the story, I wanted to have a thought that maybe leaned a little slightly into a negative, is that, like I previously said, it could have gone a little bit darker sometimes, not just with the story, but in terms of leaning into the blood. If Lisa Frankenstein really is this simple film with this one thing to it at the core, perhaps you could have leaned a little further with that thing. But it's only a thought, a fleeting thought. It's not an actual criticism. It's just would it have still worked if they'd leaned more into the blood, if they'd leaned more into the dark? Because, while I say it's a simple film and it is a dark comedy, it is a dark idea at the core of it. I mean, not just the two lead characters and then what they end up doing, but there are other things in it that were really surprising, like the inclusion of an SA scene, which I wasn't expecting at all. In terms of aesthetic of the storytelling, I have heard a lot of people compare this to the work of Tim Burton. In fact, one review I saw said this is the best Tim Burton film that's not directed by Tim Burton. And I would agree, there's definitely things to this story that reminded me a lot of Edward Scissorhands, very much so that in terms of the story, but also things like Beetlejuice. So if you've not seen it yet and you were wondering what is the overall feel of it, I would say that maybe gives you a bit of a clue. So in terms of my overall thoughts of Lisa Frankenstein, I went into this so excited. I was really looking forward to it, and then the closer it got to it, I was seeing people log it, and that frustration at not being able to watch it yet, I got myself really built up thinking, this is going to be a film for me. I'm going to love this. This is going to be 5 stars with a heart and a brand new personality for me. But I think I set myself up for failure by doing that. Now, I went into Saltburn thinking that, and I was correct. That was a 5-star film for me, I think. Or maybe it was a 4-star, but I went in thinking I would love it, and I did. So I was like, yep, I knew it, told you. But with this one, I went in with such high expectations that had built up over the last couple of weeks that, especially as I've been revisiting the Universal monsters, researching my Evolution of Dracula episode, I was just so ready for this. And because it wasn't, to me, 5 stars and a heart and a brand new personality, I came out of it disappointed. And that is wholly on me and nothing to do with the film, because I still rate this 4 out of 5 stars. I still really enjoyed this. It is a good time. I'm not sure if it's going to be my favourite of the year. We'll have to see at the end. But I really enjoyed this. I would be happy to revisit this, definitely. But yeah, at the end I was sat there a bit slumped. And maybe that took away from my experience of watching it that first time. And it is completely my own fault. I set myself up for a fall there. Let me know your thoughts on the film down below in the comments. Is it one that you enjoyed? Is it one that just wasn't for you? Have you not even seen it yet? I can imagine this one being a film that's not for everybody. It's quite a specific niche aesthetic to it. But as far as Zelda Williams goes, I was really impressed, and I will be watching out for further movies from her. If you're new here, then don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell. And if you enjoyed this video, maybe give it a thumbs up. It helps the channel and pleases the YouTube overlords. And if you would like to join these names here, there is a link to my Patreon page in the description box below, where I try to release extra content every single week and early access to the episodes on my channel. But in the meantime, thank you as always for stopping by. I really do appreciate it. Take care of yourselves, and I will talk to you in the next episode. Bye.